If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.
Oh, we're back, and it's going to be a fun time. I know that I said Ridin the Pine was just going to be solo, but we can do this a bunch of different ways. And we have multi-time guest, former college football playoff, or not playoff, it was the bowl season back then, former college bowl season champion, Cody Rhodes Stan, and New York Jets fan. So I put together something for you. I appreciate you coming back. I know that you're taking time after track practice, and you have a wife and you have a dog, and you could be doing a bunch of other things. So here's my gift to you. The NFL Jets are the longest running prank on their own fan base. Every offseason, they talk like contenders. Every preseason, that people fall for it. And every regular season, they turn into a blooper reel with a press conference. They're not a football team so much as a beautifully funded misunderstanding. The logo says legacy. The results say group project with no leader. Being the Jets means somehow having hype, drama, and disappointment all at the same time, which honestly should be impossible, but they pull it off every single year. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Tom Pilato.
Happy to be back. I know my fan choices may be a little bit interesting or controversial, especially the Jets fan, considering the fact that I've never even been to New York before. But even as a Jets fan, I can agree to disagree. The whole franchise over the last 15 years or so, however long it's been since I have been a fan, it's been an up and down roller coaster. Sometimes we get a little bit of a glimpse of maybe what the team can be, and then after that, it all just goes back to being the good old New York Jets. So love them, hate them sometimes, but I'm a Jets fan through and through.
And want to give you congratulations, because it's the first time you've been on the show since being on the coaching staff for Cherry Creek, because they won a state championship, and you're coaching track, teaching math, doing a whole bunch of things. So we're glad that we get you back, and we have a bunch of things to talk about, because Nico is still very busy. He's basically going from coaching lacrosse to being his liaison for the Mammoth. They're starting the playoffs this week, and then he has PLL starting next week. So we're trying to keep him. We know that he has his own job, but we're trying to keep things rolling. And we do have some things to get to. Masters weekend last weekend. Your wife is a very big golfer. You got married on a golf course.
Yes.
You and I did not grow up in a golf household. So first, let's establish what were you doing on Masters Sunday? Were you invested in the tournament? Were you paying attention at all? Does Savannah like to watch, or did you have very little clue of what was going on?
I kind of checked once maybe to look at the update, and I want to say that day we might have gone, or maybe it was the day before, we went up and had dinner with the in-laws. So I think he had ESPN on in the background, and maybe it showed up, but I was not sitting there watching, and neither was Savannah. She is a very big golfer. She's a really good golfer. Even though she would tell you that she's not. She's really good, and we weren't really interested necessarily. I've learned a lot of interesting things about the Masters over the last couple of days, because that seems like one of the main things that anybody on YouTube or TikTok is talking about. So I've learned a lot, but I was not interested whatsoever.
Yeah, I like Scotty Scheffler, and I watch Full Swing when I'm like really bored, and that's coming from a history teacher. So when I'm done watching all of my history documentaries on the separate subscription that I have, I decide, okay, let's go watch some Full Swing. Scotty Scheffler is a good guy, and I like seeing him succeed. Golf is in a interesting point, because Rory McIlroy won his second Masters in a row. He's, I think, the fifth golfer ever in history to have done that. He went 17 years without winning a Masters, and now he's won 2 in a row. First off, I guess I'll throw this out there, since I know I probably heard a few more stories than you did. As a Masters champion, you have special privileges, and he's able to play the course anytime that he wants. And he had a private jet flying himself back and forth from his house. So he's actually played this course probably like 14, 15, 16 times before he actually stepped foot on the tournament grass. How do you feel about that? And is that obviously it's something that he's able to do because he's made a boatload of money and he has the funds and means necessary. But that seems like a little bit of a competitive advantage.
I mean, it's definitely a competitive advantage. I don't think that there's really any arguing against that fact. I think that first off, that's a very interesting and a very cool thing that you can actually play the course whenever you want once you win the Masters. The other thing that I would say is a lot of the people who I would imagine are complaining are people who maybe got close to winning, maybe didn't quite make the Masters, whatever the case might be. Truthfully, that's a privilege that he earned. And do I necessarily agree with the fact that, he took himself out of different tournaments leading up to the weekend of the Masters so that he could go and play the course multiple times? Maybe, maybe not. I feel like that could have just as easily worked to his disadvantage, getting himself way too comfortable with the course, and then maybe thinking that he can do certain things and ending up in the water or whatever the case might be when it actually mattered. But I don't necessarily think that it's something that you can really knock the guy for. He's taking advantage of something that he earned. At the end of the day, if you really want to complain about it, I kind of feel like you have to continue to keep practicing and just hope that you can dethrone him. There's not really a whole lot else that you can do about it.
Yeah, and another thing that I heard, I listened to Scott Van Pelt in an interview that he does because he covers the entire thing for ESPN the entire week, and he was talking about how Rory probably hits the ball the farthest of anybody in the world right now. He hits probably 330 yards, 334 yards on an average. And maybe it's not going straight all the time, but he's so close to the hole that he racked up a huge lead at the beginning. He actually struggled Saturday and Sunday. He almost let Scotty come back. He just had such a big lead at the very beginning of the tournament from day one and day two that it didn't really end up mattering. He wins his second. He's had the Grand Slam. This was
it looks like Jimmy, our host, just dropped out. I'm not entirely sure exactly what the rest of his point was going to be, but I did see that he kind of took off, started really, really hot. Rory did for the weekend of the Masters and then kind of tapered off towards the end. That's a dangerous thing, to do, to be able to either start off strong and then potentially let somebody else come back and win. But the fact that he was able to hold everybody else off, and actually end up winning, I think is a huge point as well. And it looks like Jimmy's back in. Hi, welcome back.
Internet crashed. Computer just decides to turn.
I don't know if I finished your point for you, but I kind of ad-libbed. I guess I'll put it that way. I don't know.
No, I think with the way that things are going in golf, it's not necessarily a young man's sport with the Masters. Scotty Scheffler has a chance to win his Grand Slam next weekend, I believe, in the Open Championship, which is going to be a big deal and a big tournament. But those two seem to be the best two players in the world. Are we going to see another era of golf, do you think? Is it going to ever be as popular as it was when Tiger was dominant? Because it really hasn't been the same since he had his issues and he wasn't playing as consistently. And I know that's a cop-out, and I know that's a cliche, and everybody says that who has a show and a podcast. But I do feel like there's some merit to this. It hasn't been the same.
And I agree. It hasn't been the same. Do I think that it's going to necessarily hit the same level? That's going to be hard to do because so I equate it to things that maybe I'm a little bit more versed in. The big question in the 2010s for the WWE was, are they ever going to hit the same level as of popularity as like the Hulk Hogan era or the Attitude Era? And really, it's kind of hard to say one way or the other. I don't necessarily know if you can really hit that same level with Tiger. Tiger was kind of he more or less kind of came out of nowhere and dominated the sport for, as long as he did, and just made it entertaining for people who weren't even necessarily golf fans to actually watch and see, is Tiger going to win, another green jacket or whatever the case might be. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to hit that same level. I think it'll come close. I do like Rory. I think that he has kind of that same pull or a similar pull. I don't like golf. I do like kind of watching his highlights and seeing how he does and how some of the other big names do. Kind of like how when Tiger was playing, I like the same thing, but I'm not going to necessarily say that a non-golf fan like myself is going to start turning on golf every single tournament, and watching through and through. So I don't know.
My last question for the Masters, and then we'll wrap things up and move on to some March Madness cleanup with our bracket championship, which you were also a participant in. I'll just tell you now, you didn't win. So that $100 not going in your pocket.
No.
I'll give a guy a shout out that gets the $100. Is golf a sport or a hobby?
I think truthfully, I think what makes it turn from a hobby to a sport is the amount of time and the amount of preparation that you put into it. I think that I would put it in the sport category, but for me, it would be considered more of a hobby than anything. For somebody like, somebody who goes out, once a month or once every couple of weeks and actually plays, 9 or 18 holes, then I think you're kind of teetering on the edge of turning it into a sport. But I think really it depends on the person and it depends on the amount of time that you're willing to put into it. So I say it's a sport. I would consider it one of my hobbies, not necessarily a sport that I engage in. So.
Yeah, no, I think that the people who say that are probably the people who struggle on the golf course, like myself. I do think that it is a sport because even if you're competing against the course, you are competing against something. But no, that was my least favorite part of your wedding weekend, not going to lie. Having to sit there, and I was such a good baseball player. I have such a nice baseball swing, but it just doesn't translate.
I stopped counting how far I was able to hit the ball and started counting how many windows I was able to break. Because look, I truthfully had never picked up a golf club except for maybe Top Golf up until that point. I don't think I'd ever actually played a true round of golf, or if you want to call what we did a round of golf. I know some were more competitive than others, but I started just trying to crush the ball. And then I think we started pulling up to the greens and, playing putt-putt basically, picking a spot and going from there, which I thought
my shoulder still hurts from trying to throw the golf ball.
Yeah, well, but I thought that was fun to be able to just do that. Once we stopped.
You know what I learned? You know who was really bummed she wasn't invited to the golfing outing?
Carly?
She used to golf growing up with her dad. She's like, I would have played. I would have definitely gone out there and done. I don't know if the girls were doing something else or if the invite never. I don't know who all was invited, but she said I would have played golf. I was like, oh, you could have taken my spot. I would have stayed at the hotel.
I thought it got fun once we kind of took the competitive element out of it, or at least toned it down.
There's no taking the competitive element out of it. We'll talk about it at the end with what we're doing next year, but everybody knows if there's the two of us involved, there's always going to be a competitive element.
Oh yeah,
Ed was there and Gabe was there.
And you know what made me mad, or I don't know if mad's the right word, but Ed, and we know this, but he picked up the golf club and was just unnatural.
Well, he also had Craig teaching him. He got a teacher in his group, and what was that about?
I mean, that's true. But he even just with the little bit of teaching that Craig was giving him, he still was just somehow a natural at it. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not with him, but it seems like no matter what he picks up, he just he picks it up and he's at least decent at it. I'm not necessarily going to say that, he's like the best in the world or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but man, he was really good.
I know you guys don't watch it as much as I do and probably don't understand the story, but it's Dragon Ball because Vegeta is great. He's the Prince of all Saiyans, but naturally he's the least talented. He's had to work to get to every single transformation. Goku, which I believe is you, is much more naturally talented than Vegeta. He's able to overpower him easily and holds back every time that he fights. And then Gohan. It doesn't necessarily work because Gohan is Goku's son, but Gohan is the human Saiyan hybrid, which is like the maximum potential. He has the most amount of potential and just naturally the most talented. If he does anything really well, that's scary. That's when everybody else in that industry needs to watch out, which, DU Law,
Yeah, that's and honestly, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't expect anything less coming from him. Just, it's been that way the entire time. So
it's the way things work out. Speaking of the March Madness bracket brawl, do you know what you finished? Who was your champion? Let's just go there. Who was your champion?
I had Michigan as my champion.
Oh, damn it. I was going to say I had one up on you. Damn
it. I did pick Michigan in my main bracket, and then I kind of was screwing around and I did one where I picked all low seeds, one where I picked all high seeds. So not that did me any good, but I just kind of wanted to fill out multiple brackets. I never filled out a bracket for March Madness up until now. I don't know what place. Is that mine? No,
this is just the final score.
I don't know what place I ended up in. I know that I was on the lower half for sure. There was somebody in the bracket who was in the 97th percentile.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's insane.
We had two people. It ended up with a finish points-wise, or a tie points-wise, percentage-wise. One person put a tiebreaker score on there and one person didn't. So it went to the guy with the tiebreaker. Shout out at ColdStoneMad316 on Twitter. That is your bracket brawl champion. His bracket was titled. So if you were in our group, you can see and you can follow. Make sure that you check out his page. I don't know if he does any kind of content or anything. I know that it was open to everybody. Yugi X Reborn was his bracket title. And he was the one that was 97 percentile, had Michigan as his champion. The one guy that was in first the entire time, Big Easy, he had a 99% hit rate going through to the Final Four. Unfortunately, Duke screwed him, as Duke often does with a lot of people because they choke. But no, Michigan, I know that you don't watch college basketball. I watch very little college basketball. You probably don't watch as much as I do because I liked it because I broadcasted it. I was watching when I was in Virginia. The games that I watched where Michigan was on the floor, they were very talented, but it also brings up this other question because I don't know if you're aware, they had 9 former Division I college starters. That doesn't mean all 9 Power 4 guys, but there were 9 guys who have started in Division I college basketball from other teams that were playing for the Michigan Wolverines this year. Doesn't take away how good they were on the floor. Doesn't take away the fact that they were the best team in this season and won the national championship. And I believe Dusty May was probably the best coach in the entire country. But it does beg the question, like, where are college sports going? Because that seems a little bit ridiculous, where you have 9 guys transfer into one school. How are you going to beat that?
I think it's what we're starting to see with all college sports, and it's kind of unfortunate. At the same time, it potentially makes for maybe a smaller school to become a little bit more competitive. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do with that. You at this point, it's become you don't pick one school, you pick whatever school you want to start with, and then you upgrade from there or whatever the case might be. It's almost like
sometimes it's upgrade. Remember Uyagalele? Uyagalele was like, screw you, Clemson. I don't need you. And then UCLA went 0-11. He was like, damn.
Right. So I mean, I hate the fact that, there's less, I don't know if accountability is the right word, but you can pretty much just say, screw,
loyalty.
Loyalty. That's the better way to put it. There's no loyalty left. And I hate that because to me, one of the big things was seeing through the school, whatever school you picked, seeing it through and trying to see if maybe you can make them better or what you can do to make yourself better. And then, going from there. But now, I mean, the transfer portal's made everything such a joke for all. And joke's probably not the right way to describe it either, but it's just so frustrating as somebody who's a fan of college football, college wrestling, even though you don't see it as much with wrestling.
You see it way more, actually. That was the craziest part about the finals this year. Everybody they were on their third or fourth school except for the true freshmen.
Well, when I say you don't see it as much with wrestling, I guess what I mean is you don't see as
where you don't see it is in the D2 level.
Well,
you experienced it at Pueblo where you went through a couple of harder seasons and then now they've had success, but that was something that you had to help build. And I see it at Western 110%. I don't think that the transfer portal helped them. It probably honestly hurt them with where they are in budget wise, but that was a place that, there was a lot of us that stuck around for 5 and then with the COVID year, 6 years and went through terrible seasons and eventually got to the point where now they've been competitive for the last 3 seasons in a row, which is something that I never really expected. I did it at Heritage. It's what I nudged you about when Logan was making his speech to the team. And if you don't know who Dave Logan is, you probably live outside of the state of Colorado, but he is the greatest high school football coach in the state. He's won the most amount of state championships. What's the speech start with? I know you know the start of the speech.
Every single time we've been in the state title game every year since 2018, and we've won every year except for 2018 and
22
in 2022. And he points that out because and he obviously doesn't do this on purpose, but every time he gets to that part of we lost in 2018 and I'm sitting in the crowd, it's hilarious because he's panning over the crowd, but it's almost like he times it so that, it's always looking at me whenever he says it. So,
but you know this as a coach, and it's what he said. I don't care about. I love the guys that go D1, and I love the guys that sign Power 5 Power 5 letters of intent. But it's more about the people who were there every day in the weight room, the people who are there to give bodies to the starters. Because your scout team, you're just a meat sack. You're a meat sack that has to go get ran through by the guy who's starting in your position. But hey, do it as best as you can. And those are the guys that make a difference. And that is not what Michigan did, but UConn. If UConn were to pull this off, we'd be having a totally different conversation because UConn is a team that's got a lot of loyalty. Like Danny Hurley inspires that in his players, and he's tough and he gets in guys' faces and he headbutts referees, but he gets his guys to play as hard as he can. And he gave Michigan, they've beaten Michigan earlier this year, and a 6-point margin of victory. That's the only game that Michigan had in the tournament that wasn't at least 15 points separation. So UConn, we're sitting here talking about how loyalty is dead. Loyalty did almost pull this thing off.
Well, and you see that loyalty can still build you an incredible program with Indiana. I mean, that's a few months
and that
ago.
is loyalty. Like everybody wanted 100%. To equate the two. That wasn't Power 5 starters transferring in. Those were guys from James Madison that were with him 2 years ago that went through last season. And then the only upgrade that they made, and it was an upgrade at the time, because did you know who Fernando Mendoza was last year when he was playing for Cal? No. I didn't either. And I love college football. I watch a ridiculous amount of college football, and I had no idea who that kid was. But that was their only upgrade, quote unquote. Everybody else had been with Cignetti and was loyal to him, and now they're reaping the benefits and reaping the rewards.
Well, and to me, that shows you that you don't have to have a giant school's name next to your name on ESPN to have any sort of success. That that still shows that loyalty is still valued and is still rewarded. Sure, does it make it easier if you have a Michigan next to your name or a UConn or an Alabama or whatever the name might be? Sure, yeah. But is the easier route always the better route to take? I guess that's for you to decide. Me personally, and I mean it is also partially due to the coach. I probably would have chose the loyalty path, and maybe that would have worked out, maybe it wouldn't have. But to me, that's more rewarding, whatever the outcome might be. But I guess I'm old school, and I know you probably agree with me. I'm kind of old school in that fashion, but my story, and people who are listening might not know it all. But I went to a school initially. I didn't go to Cherry Creek initially because I was loyal to a coach who I felt was better for me at the time, and Logan wasn't in the position that he's in. So it makes a lot of sense. And
The women's tournament, got to give them their credit because the tournament was incredible. And we were watching the semifinals games because we happened to be out that night. It is a little bit different in the women's side. Like the top teams are the top teams. These were all number one seeds in the Final Four, and these are 2 number one seeds in the final game. South Carolina has been kind of a dominant force, but UCLA behind 2 Grandview graduates. I don't know if you knew that, but the Gatorade High School Player of the Year from Grandview for the last 2 years is playing for UCLA and her sister. Them, along with a cast of other players, able to get a national championship. First national championship for UCLA, which is a very historic. That's where John Wooden coached. I don't know if you know who John Wooden is, but he's the guy who made the Pyramid of Success. They've never won a women's national championship up until 2026, and they did it 79-51 over South Carolina. And the coaches were kind of at the forefront. What would you do if you were in the national semifinal and you lose in a situation that your team has never lost? I'm talking about UConn, because they lost to South Carolina and they'd never lost in the Final Four under this head coach. Did you see the bitch fit that guy threw on the sidelines going through? He didn't shake the South Carolina coach's hand. This is, don't want to bring gender into it, but this is a man coaching UConn. Doesn't shake the hand of the woman that's coaching the team across from him because he's so bent out of shape and so butthurt that his team lost in the semifinals.
See, I've always kind of followed the belief of whether you win or you lose, you do it with class. And like that.
Gino Aremia is his name. Gino Aremia. So he's a Dago.
That to me is just inexcusable, especially because you have all of these impressionable people who are not only on your team, but watching and potentially want to play for your school at one point. You have to put forward as good of a product as you possibly can, and that just wasn't it. I mean, and there's no other way to put it. I mean, he made the conscious decision, and if you want to make the argument that maybe he was so fed up with emotion or whatever, okay, you can try to make that argument. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to agree with you, but either way, you show the respect that is earned by them beating you. And not only beating you, but I mean, you flashed the score up there a couple different times. They got handled.
Going back to the semifinal game, UConn, I'll put those ones. UConn was dominated in the semifinal, 62-48. And that was what he said in the media afterwards. It was like, they were running up the score. If you go back historically of UConn's scores in the Final Four when they're dominating teams, it's regularly about that, 62-48. So you can dish it, but you can't take it. If you're going to be the best, what's the whole point? Like at the top of the mountain, it's hard to stay there because everybody's going to get better to try and knock you off. And that's what the whole point of this is. Nobody is destined to be champion forever. Did John Cena win his last match, Tom?
No, he did not. And
he did not. He tapped out. And I had that visceral reaction because I was like, that's not what you do. But sometimes it happens.
Well, and we were not upset at the fact that he lost. We were upset at the perceived way of how he lost, because we both looked at it as he finally gave up. But it kind of came full circle in that. He
finally let himself go. He finally died. That was what it was.
But then, and you even said it too, because I think you sent me a text message after. Both of us were beyond upset.
I almost got kicked out of your house. You don't have to sugarcoat it. I almost got kicked out of your house.
I mean, we were all feeling that same way, and you were, I guess, expressing it more outwardly, but we had to take a step back and understand that, you know what, he can't be champion forever. That doesn't mean that he's still not our guy. That doesn't mean that he still hasn't done all these amazing things, you know, in his personal life and outside of the WWE and as an ambassador and all that different stuff. But and the other thing that we have to understand too is it's okay to be upset about him losing or losing in general. It's kind of just a natural reaction, but it's how you carry yourself after something like that happens. Do you let yourself crumble to pieces and not, you know, shake the other coach's hand, or do you rise above it and say, you know what, you bested me this time. There's nothing else I could do. We gave it all we had. maybe we'll have better luck next year. And I hate that that's how I put it, but I guess when you've had to deal with it as many times as you have as either a competitor or in general, finishing second sucks. There's no other way to put it. And yeah, it feels great when you finish first and you're on top of the mountain and you're the champion, but it's tough. It's tough to stay on that mountaintop. And there's always going to be somebody trying to pull you down from it.
As a coach of a co-ed sport, with where the women's game has gone and where it seems to be going,
Paul George,
I guess, what are your thoughts on where women's sports is and how it's moving forward? I know that I've talked about it with the women's wrestling team, and Casper, you having its first female state champion in wrestling. That was awesome. And I tell the girls all the time, if you want a free college education right now, wrestle in college as a girl, because the women's teams have money to burn and they're just trying to fill out rosters and they're giving a whole bunch of opportunities to everybody. But this tournament 6 years ago was not this way for the women. They were not playing in arenas. They were playing with shoddy equipment, and now it's just as big of an attraction on ESPN. Not just as big, but you know what I mean. It's just as much of a big deal as the men's tournament is who's going to win the female side. So what are your stances? What is your stance on where female sports are?
First off, you might want to mute that video that's over in the corner because sorry. I think that truthfully it's long overdue. I feel like there is just as much good competition in women's sports as there are in the more what I guess most people would consider mainstream men's sports. Sorry, 1 second. Whatever the kids had finally caught up to me, and I'm dealing with that. So I feel like the competition is just as good. It has been just as good for a while, and now they're finally getting the light kind of shining on them like they should. Unfortunately, a lot of people have an archaic mindset when it comes to the difference between women's and men's sports. And yeah, there's differences. I don't think that anybody's disputing that. But I think what needs to be kind of celebrated is that both sides have incredible teams, incredible schools, incredible places and opportunities that need to be showcased. And I mean, I even looked at you and said, I mean, it's a totally different feel watching the men's March Madness games versus the women's March Madness games. And that's not a bad thing. It's just you can tell that it's almost like, wow, this is a feeling that I haven't really had the chance to experience a whole lot other than the last few years. And it's definitely, I feel like it's just long overdue. I enjoyed watching those women's March Madness games that we were sitting there watching at dinner that night. And I was shocked at how well, how the coverage of it almost seemed like it was still kind of dragging a little bit too. Like the commentators didn't seem like they were as into it as they should have been either, which was odd to me. Like you're there, you're actually watching and being able to cover these incredible games, and it's like it's almost like they were upset that they had to be there, and I'm like, why? What's the point?
It's I don't know if I would ever. I can't say that I would never be in that situation because these people have probably been broadcasting for a very long time, and who knows what was going on. I feel it seems, similar to me, like the students that come into your class. Who knows what happened that day? Maybe they're just having a bad day and they're not actually trying to be a jerk, but they're just being a jerk. But there have been some times where I'm sitting up in the booth. I told you, mines came into Western in Paul Wright Gym and had a guy go 10 of 11 from 3. By 5 for 5, I was rooting for him. By 7 for 7, I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me.
And see, like, I know that was tough for you to root for somebody who played for Colorado School of Mines, but that to me is like, you have to kind of play the hand that you're dealt, right? And even though you might have been a Western commentator, or maybe, you like one side better than the other or whatever, you still have to do what you can to make it entertaining for yourself, but also the people who are watching or listening to you. Like that, I feel like
I did a solo show last week. You don't think that's what I was thinking the entire time? Who gives a shit if anybody likes it? I like it.
Well, and that's what I feel like was kind of missing from the broadcast. It was the game was great. There were amazing performances all across the board, whether they were winning, losing, whatever. We were talking about how there was a lot going on in the paint with the Texas game too, but it was like every time they cut to the commentators, it was like, oh, all that momentum, all of a sudden it's gone. At least that was how I felt. I was like, just stop showing me the commentators, turn off the volume, and let's just watch the game, because that's the more entertaining part.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the more entertaining part. I'm going to pull it up on the screen because I want to hear John Buccigross call DU winning its 11th national title. But we were actually at Home Depot shopping for a new fridge for you and the wifey, and I was scrolling through my TikTok and I saw, oh my God, DU pushed it to overtime, and then I put it on right as overtime expired as we're walking back through Home Depot, and I go, DU just won their 11th national title. 11 national hockey titles. They are in the best conference. They won their conference again. John Carl, the coach, is an amazing story. I don't know if you know his background, but he was actually brought into DU as a player. Ended up having a really bad medical condition, so he was never able to play, but he was allowed to be a player coach. Went off and coached in the juniors for a while, came back and was the head coach of DU for the last 3 national titles that they've won. They win 2-1 over Wisconsin in a season that nobody was expecting this. This was not a season that they were reloading. They were trying to rebuild. And in that rebuilding season, they got a freshman goaltender who went 15-0-1. So he was undefeated in all of the games that he played in this season. And that includes double overtime in the semifinals against Michigan and overtime in the national championship against Wisconsin to get his Pios to win 2-1. But just, I know that DU wasn't that big when we were growing up because for whatever reason, it doesn't get covered in the local media, but just that is an incredible feat. 11 national championships for some dinky team out of Denver, Colorado, who plays at some private school. Some private law school won a bunch of hockey national championships. Oh boy. And now we have, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was waiting for the call.
I know. I'll get the call. You got to talk first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, I agree. It's interesting. So I hadn't really ever paid attention to DU's hockey team until really I was in high school, because I had a buddy who was working as one of the managers for their hockey team. And I didn't even really pay attention and I don't remember what national title number this was. It might have been one of their first, but I didn't really even know that they won until he showed up like 2 weeks later with the giant national championship ring. And when I say giant, I mean giant. Like it made the state rings look like they were coming out of one of those little gumball machines. But I mean, I agree with you. I think that it's incredible, the story of their coach, but also the fact that, it's some private school in the middle of Colorado that, a lot of people would probably not think twice of when it comes to really anything outside of maybe a couple of their academic programs. And they're out here beating teams like Michigan, one of the top hockey schools in the entire nation, beating teams like, and pretty handily too. But it's incredible. The games that you win by multiple goals are fun, but the games that you win where you really have to snuff it out and it's a defensive effort, or even maybe you tie, which is, obviously not a win, but just as good when it comes to points and all the different stuff. Those are the ones that really show you the kind of team that you are. And I feel like I've said that a few times, especially when we were doing the bowl pick'em shows. I don't look for the teams that have blown out, middle of nowhere, Alabama State, college, whatever, like they're supposed to. I look for the teams where, this was a hard fought battle, and maybe you went into overtime and you had to win, by a field goal or whatever. But that shows me that you're willing to stick in there with some of these teams that are in this, these bowl games and actually give yourself a chance. So I feel like DU has kind of made a name for themselves, not only with the number of national titles, but just with the belief in themselves and their ability to push themselves past the kind of the threshold of what you would expect and maybe what you don't expect.
Yeah, there was a point in this season where they lost a weekend series to Western Michigan, and from that point on, they pretty much got themselves into what I would say is national championship condition. So here is how the game ended up. This is what we missed while we were shopping for your fridge on Saturday night.
Awesome.
As usual, hope seemed dim. It looked like they had no chance. But once again, Denver are leaving Las Vegas for the national championship.
I love the emotion when a hockey team wins the championship because the screaming and the hooting and hollering, it just brings back good memories. But
I feel like there's not much that can rival a hockey team celebrating, whether it be a championship or just like a hard-fought victory against a rival or whatever. I don't know. There's just something about it where it's in a league of its own. Like you can watch the Super Bowl and the team, go crazy with the confetti and all that, but hearing the horn go off and everybody piling onto the goalie, and it's something else.
It was definitely a special moment. It's a special program that deserves a lot more credit than it gets. So I'm glad that we were able to talk about it. And I know Nico, when he comes back, I'll give him the opportunity to discuss Hicks. Maybe Hicks is a future Colorado Avalanche, because the Denver Pios that are playing here, Logan O'Connor, I love me some LOC. And speaking of LOC, we got some NHL playoff hockey to talk about. First off, do you believe in the President's Trophy curse? Because the Colorado Avalanche have the best record in all of the NHL. Everybody else sucks so bad that we ended up having to win this darn trophy. And it's only been I think 4 to 6 times has the President's Trophy won a Stanley Cup, and it has not been very recently. But I have the standings up there now. Colorado Avalanche, after the historic start to the season, and then figuring themselves back out after everybody came back from injury, they are the number 1 team overall in the NHL playoffs, and they will be playing, as it stands now, they are going to be playing the Los Angeles Kings this upcoming weekend in the first round of the NHL playoffs. But just, do you believe in the President's Trophy curse? So
I am not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. And I hate – hey, I'm protected. I'm not going to say that I don't believe in it because of the overwhelming odds against the President's Trophy winner. Do I think that it's an end-all, be-all, they're not going to win? No, because I believe in our boys, and I know that they can play some great hockey, and I know that they're going to leave it all out on the ice. What I will say is the game that we went to a couple weeks ago, they looked frantic, and it's almost like,
well, that was we got to put it in perspective. That was the second game of a back-to-back. They just beat Dallas the afternoon before to kind of basically put the division out of reach. And the Blues are eliminated from the playoffs. They didn't make the last wild card spot. It's going to be LA. So that was a team that was still fighting for their lives. So yes, they did not look great, but they definitely looked tired. They definitely looked like they played a hell of a game the day before that went into overtime, that they slayed the Dragon in their division, so to speak. So yes, I agree with you that it looked bad, but there was definitely some context that makes that seem a little bit more reasonable.
And I agree, and that's why I'm not saying that it's necessarily the most, the scariest thing that could have happened. But I will say the one you termed them the Dragon. That's 100% what they've been for the last, I don't even know how many years at this point. They have.
How long have we been doing this podcast? 6 years. I think I've talked about losing to the Dallas Stars 4 out of the 6 years of this show.
Something like that.
One year we won the Stanley Cup. The other year we got knocked out by the Kraken. That's the only two differences.
And the thing is, they have to be able to perform when it counts, and they did, to put the division out of reach a week or two ago, however long it was now.
I think it was not the Calgary game. It was the game after the Blues game that we went to. I think it was the Blues again. When they beat the Blues again in St. Louis and actually just, brought it out on the table and smacked them in the face with it, then it was over.
The thing that worries me is in the playoffs, you're going to have – it's not going to be back-to-back, but you're going to have games where they're really close together. And I know that a day's rest does make a big difference, that's for sure. But just – you got to be able to perform when it counts, and you got to be able to slay that dragon when it counts too. I'm so sick of hearing about how good the Dallas Stars have been over the last few years, and they are a good hockey team. But I feel like if we can get past the Stars, then I like our chances going forward for the rest of the playoffs. Of course,
it is no guarantee that we play the Stars, by the way, because the Wild in that 2-3 spot in the Central. That has been much closer than people gave credit for because they were so worried about watching the Stars chase the Avalanche. The Wild were chasing down the Stars for a long stretch too. And I watched one of the games that Nico got last-minute tickets for was a Wild game. And it was right after the Olympic break, and it was the same thing. Like, the Avalanche looked slow. They looked like they couldn't enter the zone. The goaltending was shaky at best, and the Wild were able to steal one in Denver. So it's not like it hasn't as much as there are similarities to the 2022 season, there's some concerns that I have going into this playoffs, and I think it starts between the pipes. What do you feel about the goaltender situation? Are you trusting Blackwood because he's been paid as your starting goaltender, or are you trusting the guy that's objectively proven on the ice? He's the better goaltender this season, and Scott Wedgwood.
We have two really good goaltenders. We do. Whether the numbers have shown them or not, obviously Wedgwood has been a lot more consistent and a lot more trustworthy when it comes to having him between the pipes. But we truthfully, we don't have a choice but to trust Blackwood because we can't play Wedgwood every single game, nor do we really want to, because then you have the possibility of being stuck with having to put Blackwood in because you've tried to play him back to back to back. I feel like we should, on paper, have the best goaltending duo in the NHL. And right now, me and you shouldn't be talking about, well, do we trust him? We should be talking about, well, is there going to be anybody who can score against him? But because of the way that Blackwood has been playing over the last few weeks and even potentially a few months, we're having a completely different conversation. After watching him against St. Louis, there were a couple different scenarios there where I was like, I don't know if he's going to be able to stop this. But then, a couple times, like that late game goal.
The one in the third period was tough, but I feel like everything else before that was more of a defensive breakdown.
And I agree. And you know what? He stood up and he handled the puck, or he blocked it. He got it out of the zone. He gave his defense a chance to help him out. Even though they were potentially, you could make the argument that they were the ones who put him in all of those situations. But I don't know. I don't know how comfortable I am saying that Blackwood is going to be a solid goaltender going forward. I need him to prove it to me. And honestly, I think he showed some kind of flashes in the pan that one game that we went to. But overall, I'm not comfortable.
This is a new environment for him because he's coming from New Jersey, which has never been a powerhouse and never been considered the best team in the league. With the Kings matchup specifically, are you worried at all with the 8 seed possibly upsetting the number 1 seed in the playoffs, or is this what Daryl Sutter likes to say, a waste of 7 days?
I feel like anybody on any day has a chance to get slain.
Speaking like an administrator, riding the line, just towing that line.
What I will say is I don't think that it's a waste. I think that we're going to get some good hockey. I will say that I would say let's start out here. Obviously, start out with Wedgwood, kind of get ourselves comfortable, but then maybe let Blackwood take the majority of the games going forward and kind of get him used to having a little bit more of a spotlight on him. Obviously, is it as big of a series as maybe some that are to come? No, but get him his sea legs, for lack of a better term, and kind of, since he hasn't been in that situation, let him take a couple reps, a couple games at a situation like that.
I assume we're both taking the Avs over the Kings in the first round. For the other wild card matchup, the Golden Knights, the Pacific was a pillow fight this year. That was the weakest division, one of the weakest divisions that I can remember seeing in a long time. Vegas gets the 1 seed out of the Pacific, so they play Utah in their wild card matchup. I was watching Utah earlier today. They're nothing special, but Vegas is not what Vegas was. That was another great moment in this podcast history when we had the Nuggets and Avalanche get eliminated in 8 simultaneous days, where the Nuggets lost, the Avs lost, Nuggets lost, Avs lost, Nuggets lost, Avs lost, Nuggets lost, Avs lost. Oh, playoffs are over. Bye. That was it's not that team, thank God. Who do you have coming out of the Knights and Mammoth series?
I mean, I agree. I will admit I haven't watched as much NHL as I probably should have, but I do agree with you that was definitely the weakest division this year. I feel like the Golden Knights have been in a situation like this more recently. It's hard to pick against them, considering the fact that it seems like every time we do pick against them, they come up and they show us why, they were created as an expansion team and why they do have some Stanley Cup, lineage in their program now. So I feel like I'm going to go with the Golden Knights. It's not going to be by a lot. I think it's going to be a pretty back and forth series, if I'm being totally honest. But it's hard to pick against experience, especially recent experience.
They do still have Eichel, and they do have some players that can cause issues for other teams. Anybody out of the Pacific better hope that the Central beats the crap out of each other if they have any shot of making it to the Stanley Cup final. The 2-3 matchup in the Pacific is Edmonton versus Anaheim. I texted you when I was sitting at the game, because one of the games I went to with Craig, when they needed to fill a spot with the ticket that they had. If I had a nickel for every time I've watched the Anaheim Ducks play the Colorado Avalanche in Denver this year, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that I saw both games. It's weird that I saw both times. They split the series, so Anaheim, they have a very solid young goaltender, but that's the issue with them, is that they're so young. I really don't know what to expect out of them in this situation. Edmonton definitely has the playoff experience. I believe that they're looking to get Draisaitl back either in this round or possibly the next round if they can make it. But you do still have McJesus on that side. Now, the goaltending sucks. The defense sucks. Everything outside of McDavid is terrible. But when you have somebody like McDavid, Connor McDavid can make up for a lot of eyesores. So how do you feel about that Anaheim-Edmonton series?
I think it's hard. It's hard to pick against experience when it comes to the playoffs, but it's also hard to pick against a team that has everything built basically on really one player. I think that's what the Avalanche were running into quite a bit, where it seemed like, we were kind of putting all of our eggs into maybe 1 or 2 baskets over the last few years with McKinnon and Makar and those guys, where, we were kind of focused on them and the rest of the team maybe played second fiddle. It's real hard to pick against McDavid, but I think I'm going to have to. I feel like having a solid defense, having solid goaltending, that's got to be the way that you got to go. And I hate to say that, because I was an offensive player my entire career. I've only been a defensive coordinator for 1 year, but I know the importance of defense now more than ever, considering the fact that, if they can't score, then it's going to be hard for them to beat you. So I gotta pick against Edmonton. I gotta go with Anaheim.
I think that the Oilers get through this one, but I think whoever comes out of that other, I guess if Vegas is able to hold off Utah, I think that they're able to beat Anaheim. If Anaheim and Utah play each other, that's like a total wild card series, because that's the first time for either of those 2 franchises. Last series in the West, Dallas versus Minnesota. Who are you expecting to see the Avalanche play? Is there any chance that we get a wild matchup instead of a Dallas matchup, which seems to be the norm over the last few years?
I think that one's it's a pretty decent toss-up. I know that everybody was so focused on the Stars trying to chase down the Avalanche, but the Wild they're a solid, really really solid team. So I feel like that one could go either way. If I have to pick right now, I think I would rather a new matchup with the Wild versus the Avalanche, but I don't know if I feel like I can pick against Dallas right now. They've shown that they're so solid over the last few years, and they have really good team chemistry and team DNA. So I feel like I'm gonna have to say that Dallas comes out of that series.
I think that it's Dallas because I think that in order to do great things, you have to beat things that have beat you in the past. So I don't want the Avalanche to have to avoid Dallas. I think that they need to go through that monster in the second round and then take out whoever makes it out of the other side and see if you're able to go through. Because this team is Stanley Cup or bust. In the Western Conference, if the Avalanche don't win it, it's going to be a disappointment. Eastern Conference side, Carolina is the number 1 overall seed. They're going to be taking on the Ottawa Senators with Brady Tkachuk, who is an American gold medalist. Because remember, this is America's sport. This is not Canada's sport anymore because we own all gold medals. That includes the Paralympics. Biatch. Yeah, I know. I dropped a biatch. Carolina versus Ottawa. Are you going with the Hurricanes or are you going with the Senators?
I think I'm going to have to pick the Hurricanes in that one. Both teams are solid, obviously, or else they wouldn't have made it into the playoffs. But I feel like Carolina's kind of on a tear this year. They've been pretty consistent. I feel like on the eastern side of the standings, I feel like those teams are there's a lot less separation between them. Do I think that it's been as competitive as the West? No, but I got to go with Carolina.
I think Carolina has Ottawa. The one that I'm interested about is that next wild card matchup. Buffalo is back in the playoffs for the first time in 13 years. So like we were saying at the beginning of the show, the Jets have the longest professional playoff drought of any major sports franchise.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yay! I think it's 15 years for the Jets since they've made the NFL playoffs.
I know but it is because that was the last time that they made the playoffs, I believe, was Mark Sanchez's rookie year, and that was the year that I became a fan.
Yeah, and with LaDainian Tomlinson, of all people. And the Buffalo Sabres are back in the playoffs before the New York Jets that have had, countless different number of people come through. They are playing the Boston Bruins, and that is why I'm intrigued because if we just said it on the Western side of things, playoff experience matters. Buffalo has zero. Nobody. Not a single soul in Buffalo has any sort of playoff experience. That includes players, that includes the coach, that includes the management, that includes the fan base. Like when they host their first round of the playoffs, they're going to be like, "Oh shit, this is awesome, eh? What are we supposed to do now?" Well, you got to play hockey, and you're playing against the Boston Bruins, an original six franchise who has owned you over the last 15 years. That's a lot to overcome in the first round.
That's a lot to overcome in the first round. I also feel like the team that has not been there before can be dangerous because really at this point, I'm not going to say that they're playing with house money because they are, a number 1 seed and they're high ranked on their side of the standings, but they can potentially pull it off. Do I think they do? No, I don't think so. I think maybe if they make it next year, yeah, they could potentially, pull some upsets. But I'm not going to go with Buffalo. I've been on the side of no playoff experience. I've lived that life for the better part of my life. It's hard to pick them, so I'm gonna go with the safer pick.
I would love to see Buffalo make it out of the first round because I love Tuck. I think that he'd be a great player in an Avalanche sweater someday. And I think that he has what it takes because he does have that gold medal experience. It's different. The Olympics are different than the Stanley Cup playoffs, but it's got to count for something. In the Atlantic, we have Tampa. Go ahead.
I'm not saying that I wouldn't love to see them get out of it. I'm just saying if I had to pick, I'm not going to be able to pick them. I can't convince.
You're going to pick Boston. Your cousin from Boston.
I hate it so much, and that's why I don't want to say their name.
How do you like them apples?
I gotta pick the Bruins.
I got the win in the first round. You came down to the TD Garden. We totally took care of business. The Atlantic Division in the 2-3 spot has Tampa coming up against Montreal. They tied in the number of points, but Tampa Bay gets the tiebreaker with the less number of overtime losses. Montreal had 10. Tampa Bay had 6. So 6 loser points versus 10 loser points. Who do you have coming out of that matchup?
That one's tough. I feel like you can't really obviously
Tampa hasn't been any further in the playoffs since we beat them in the Stanley Cup final, just so you know.
True, but they do have that experience of actually getting all the way to the final dance. Now, they did
3 times in a row.
3 times in a row. They did lose against us, but they've been there. They've been there. They've done that. I feel like with that much experience, it's hard to not pick Tampa.
I think that Tampa in this one makes a lot of sense. Montreal, they're brand new. The fact that they made the three spot in their division is probably a little bit of a surprise. That's a team that's definitely playing with house money, just like Buffalo. And then the Metro, the 2-3, we have the Battle of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. Sidney Crosby, who knows if it's ever going to be his last season because he's played the entire time that you've been alive. That is the crazy thing. You were 4 his first season. Him and Alex Ovechkin both. You were 4 years old in his first season, and he's still going, he's still kicking, and he still has a chance of beating he hates the Philadelphia Flyers. He's the nicest, classiest, most Canadian guy, but if you try and get him to talk about Philadelphia, I don't like anybody that's associated with their team. I don't like their fans. I don't like their coach. I don't like their player. So what do you have in the Battle of Pennsylvania?
I honestly might pick Philadelphia. I don't necessarily have a great reason, if I'm being totally honest.
What is this, 1976? Are the Broad Street Bullies back?
Well, that's part of why I like Philadelphia in some respect. I don't necessarily have a great reason to pick them over Pittsburgh. I do like Sidney Crosby. I think that he's been a great player. He's had obviously a really, really long career. But something to me is saying Philadelphia.
Yeah, no, I think that to me it's not necessarily Crosby, even though he's still a hell of a weapon. It's Malkin, because while everybody's been worried about Crosby not being able to play, Malkin beat the Avs almost single-handedly with him and Letang here in Denver. That was a pretty disappointing loss for the Colorado Avalanche, and they still have the guys, they still have the horses. I think that they're definitely a team that they're going to be slept on, but if you do, that's at your own peril. If you're not worried about the Pittsburgh Penguins, that's kind of your issue at this point. I think that's good enough to leave hockey. I'm not going to make you pick every single NBA series because I know for a fact NBA basketball. I used to have a banner that I would put up every time Nico wanted to talk basketball. Who the is this guy? Jimmy Pilato.
Yeah, I know the Nuggets. I know the Heat. I know. Oh God, is that the only 2 I can name off the top of my head? That might be the only 2 I can name off the top of my head. No, the Utah Jazz. Hang on. Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, I guess I was gonna say you named like 3 of the 4 worst teams in the league: the Heat, the Jazz. If you would have said the Nets and the Wizards, that would have been like the trifecta. Oh my God, he knows all the bad teams.
Hey, I am a Jets fan, so I guess I'm well versed in bad teams.
Yeah, no, that does make a little bit of sense. I'm not going to make you pick all of the series, but the Nuggets, I'm showing everybody the standings. They finished the season on a 12-game winning streak, and they get the 3 seed because San Antonio loses. It blocked, I believe, and Houston won, and that blocked Los Angeles from moving up. So Denver has the 3 seed. They get Minnesota in the first round. They will play San Antonio in the second round, and that leaves them on the opposite side of the Oklahoma City Thunder. I've been saying, because my students like to ask me, even though they know I don't know basketball, but they ask me because they know about the show, like, who do I think is going to win? I think out of the West, if you say anybody but Denver and Oklahoma City, you're just trying to be different, because those are the 2 teams right now that have the actual players on the court that can get it done and that have actually done it before. Oklahoma City did it last year. Denver did it in 2023. So those are the two teams that are going to know how to win these games. And that's where I think teams like San Antonio, Houston, I'm not going to say Minnesota, but Phoenix would be another team. When you've never been there in the NBA playoffs, as hard as we said it was to do it without experience in the NHL, nobody does it without experience in the NBA. You go step by step. You go to the first round, you lose. You go to the second round, you lose. You go to the conference final, you lose. You win the conference final, you lose in the NBA finals, and then you finally break through. That's that whole process. This is that whole step-by-step sequence. So what are you thinking with the Nuggets? Are you nervous with how many injuries that they've dealt with, or is that a good thing because we know that they can come through adversity?
I think it's a good and a bad thing. You always worry about, people getting hurt, but at the same time, it happened during the season. You were able to see some of maybe your younger guys or maybe your less experienced guys step up and take the reins. They've showed you that they can still, do some really, really good things, even without some of your stronger players on the court. I mean, I'm always going to say I believe that the Nuggets can make it. They've shown over the last few years they've kind of done what you just kind of said. They've made it to the first round, lost. They made it to the second round, they lost. They made it to the conference final, lost. Made it to the championship, lost. Won, and then they've kind of almost gone back into that cycle but hit different steps over the last couple of years. So I think that they can do it. It's just whether or not they believe that they can do it. They got the city behind them, right? I mean, there's
the most amount of Nuggets fans that I can remember ever in my life.
I agree. And I remember, when we had some pretty decent teams when we were younger, but even then it was almost like it's almost like how Rockies fans are now. Like, yeah, they still exist, but they're almost scared to be out in public and say, yeah, I'm a Rockies fan or wear a Rockies jersey or something like that. But now it's like, yeah, absolutely. I'm a Nuggets fan. I don't even watch basketball and I'm a Nuggets fan. Like, I have no problem in admitting that. Yeah, part of that's because it's the hometown, but still, like, they're fun to watch. I don't watch a lot of basketball, but when I do, it's entertaining.
Yeah. And I think it's fun to watch a guy like Jokic who just does it in a totally different way. I think that, what his whole thing is, he's never been the most athletic guy on the court, but he's always been the biggest guy on the court, and he's just figured out a way to make that his advantage, and it's a hell of an advantage. I do think that the Nuggets, outside of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I would give them my 1 and 2, but I do think whoever makes it out of the West, it's going to be like I know you don't watch Invincible like I do, but it's the Viltrumite Civil War. You're just killing. You just cut somebody in half, and then they pop your head open with a big old punch, and then whoever's just standing there left, like, and they're not even breathing heavy. Like the Celtics on the Eastern Conference side, they're going to have the easiest path to the NBA Finals and probably just work whoever makes it out of the Western Conference, which is unfortunate, but that's the way that I'm seeing it. I'm going to finish this thing off. We got you brought up one of the topics that I'm going to throw in quickly. The Rockies get not bought, but 40% of the Rockies get bought by Greg and Kerry Penner. They pay like $1.6 million and get 40% ownership stake in the Rockies, half of the Broncos ownership group. Is that changing your stance or view on what the Rockies can or will be in the future?
It's tough. It's gonna take a while to kind of rebuild the belief in them, I think. But truthfully, I said the same thing when they initially bought the Broncos, right? Because when they came in, and even after I think a year or two after they came in, we were still kind of the bottom of the league. But obviously, they've done some great things ownership wise. They brought some energy back into the building. So I think that they can, but it's not going to be overnight. We still got to be patient. Hopefully that means that maybe the Rockies can talk about being over 500 because
losing less than 100 games is the stage that we're at now. 500 would be like it would be a 70-game turnaround.
And you know what? I would be honestly, if maybe not this year, but maybe next year, we're talking about, okay, we've lost less than 100 games. And maybe the year after, all right, we got close to 500. Then we're at 500. I think it's kind of like the stages we just talked about with the NBA. I think those are kind of the stages that we're all hoping for.
But the saddest statistic of all time, they've been around since 1993, and they've never won the division. The only times that they made the playoffs, including the 2007 World Series run, was as a wild card team. They've never won the Western Division.
Well, no chance like the present, I guess. We'll see. It's not going to be immediate, though. We as a city, we've been patient. We got to keep being patient. And I would love to be able to say that we actually have a decent baseball team again. Because when Todd Helton was playing, maybe we weren't the best, but we at least were okay enough to be like, yeah, I like the Rockies. Maybe they're not my favorite team, but they're one of my favorite teams. Now it's like, I don't really even consider myself a baseball fan, if I'm being honest with you.
I go to Coors Field to the rooftop.
Yeah, and you go for the 9 for 9 or the 9 and 9 or whatever it is.
I did not do the 9 and 9. I just drink a lot of beer, and I take pictures of home run balls because I'm scared. I get out of the way. When Vladdy hit that home run in the All-Star game, that thing sizzled for 415 feet.
That 9 and 9 challenge is disgusting. Like,
oh, come on, Dominic! Don't you sit here and say that. I just told Carly the story about San Antonio. You want everybody to hear about the San Antonio Wiener Schnitzel story?
Oh my God, that was probably your most impressive feat of food.
Not just me. I know I ate two. I ate 2 family packs of 4 Wiener Schnitzel hot dogs, 4 small fries, 4 small Cokes. You ate one of them.
I did. And look, it was good at the time, and then we made it back to the hotel room, and it was like living in a barn. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh God,
it was bad. It was like that episode of How I Met Your Mother when they have Gazolas after however many years, and it's like, cut it out of me, cut it out.
Yeah, no, it got bad. It got a little bit rough. Did you see that your guy, your American Nightmare, is a fucking criminal? He's a
I missed
douchebag
that.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
I haven't been
he
good
broke in to Pat McAfee's Thunderdome and destroyed the set.
Oh, no, I didn't see that.
Yeah. He stole his title back and destroyed the set. Like, I get your title back. That's your property. That is your WWE championship. You are the WWE champion going into WrestleMania on Sunday. But you can't smash up another man's business. That's how he makes a living. That's how he feeds his kids.
Yeah. I don't condone that. I am his fan, so I will stand behind him and say that all he was trying to do was get his title back. And obviously we know that it's part of storylines and all that different stuff. But what I will say is this: the more highlights and such that I'm seeing, Sunday can go obviously one of 2 ways. And I'm not just talking about the fact that he could win or he could lose. What I think is going to happen is I think that they're going to give the belt back to Randy for a few reasons.
I think Collectibles knocked over the mic and chair, then walked out with the undisputed WWE Championship. The belt.
Just so you know, I'm not making it up.
No, I believed you. I just haven't been good about checking my Instagram because I'm sure that's in my feed. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to give Randy the belt back on Sunday, have him hold it for maybe a pay-per-view or 2, and then maybe give it back. The reason why I say that is Randy Orton is getting towards the end of his career like Cena was. Now, is he ready to retire yet? I don't know. But he's had so many back issues, so many neck issues. I think that if there's anybody that I would be okay with potentially beating Cody, it would be Randy. And I think truthfully,
I cannot believe I'm hearing you say that. I remember living through 2011 to 2014 Randy Orton in our household. Because not only did he terrorize John Cena, he terrorized Triple H, which was Dad's favorite too.
Well, but Triple H was one of my favorites too. But here's why I say I'm okay with it. It's because it comes full circle. And I'm not saying that I'm happy about it. I want nothing more than Cody.
There's no beginning, no end, just a circle.
I want him to hold on to the championship forever. I do. But I also understand that that wouldn't be good TV. So I know that they're going to drop it to somebody. And so if I think about it in that way, I would want it to be somebody that he has history with. And Orton is the perfect candidate for it. He was part of Legacy. He was one of the guys who kind of put Cody on the map. When he left WWE, he was talking about how he felt that he wasn't given opportunities that maybe Randy was. And even on the independent scene, like he still uses. I mean, the Cody Cutter is a fancy form of the RKO. Let's be honest. I mean, everybody uses similar moves and names it different things. I just think in terms of story and history and kind of biggest wow factor, I think that they would be smart to keep this feud going for a little while longer. I don't want him to lose, but I'm also realistic that he might.
Yeah, I like that one. I don't know if I like how they inserted McAfee into the whole thing. I feel like that was the corporate. That's the thing, is that WWE sold, so now there's a whole lot more corporate. The corporate thing was funny when it was Vince McMahon because it wasn't really corporate. It was still one guy running everything. That was definitely a TKO decision to put McAfee into that side of things. On the other side, I love everything that we're getting out of CM Punk and Roman Reigns for the Saturday night main event. The promos, the pipe bomb 3.0, that was better than the first one and second one combined. Are you kidding? Pat McAfee, you're nothing but a porcelain doll with fake teeth, Roman. What do we used to say? Zebros? Did you watch Zootopia 2, by the way?
No, we haven't.
They were dumb. I didn't like the Zebros very much. But I loved it. I love everything we're getting out of that one.
I 100% agree with you on that side. I do agree with you. I feel like them inserting Pat McAfee was not necessary. I feel like they were. I mean, it's WrestleMania, and yeah, you're right. It's corporate now, so they're trying to add as many big names as they possibly can. Last year, when they added
The Rock and Travis Scott.
Well, Travis Scott, I felt like was unnecessary, but The Rock, totally all for it. It made sense. The Samoan bloodline, he's part of the corporate ladder, all of that, 100% agreed with. But as far as like the Travis Scott and the Pat McAfees of the world, I think I like Pat McAfee as a commentator because
I love him on College Game Day.
He's great on the mic, and he's just a great personality. But he didn't need to be inserted into the storyline like that.
He's a commentator. He was in the ring for that one time. That was cool. Like Baron Corbin, that made sense because Baron Corbin played in the NFL too.
Right, so, and he's obviously very athletic. He can hold his own. I'm not disputing that. He doesn't.
If we get mad that they give WWE guys a shot over independent guys, that's McAfee getting any kind of shine over somebody else. Like somebody else is trying to work them away. Imagine if Oba was going to get removed from his match because they tried to put a bigger star in. That would be a catastrophic end to his run that he's on right now. That's going to be another big one. I think that's
going to be a great match.
I listened to Lesnar was on the Spit and Chicklets podcast because his sons play hockey. His daughter is a shot put thrower, by the way. Have you seen his daughter?
Yeah, she is huge, but like
Maya Lesnar.
Talk about freaking genetics between Lesnar and
Sable.
Oh my God, if she didn't become a shot put thrower, that would have been the biggest waste of genetics in the world.
Or a wrestler.
Or a wrestler. She might end up trying to fight in the women's UFC. I don't know. But good Lord, she is just solid. And
she's just the female version of Brock because she looks just like Brock did when he was 19.
But she's got the she's so light on her feet like Sable. Let's be honest. Brock is just here to wreck shit, right? But Sable was kind of more of the...
Have you not seen his videos of his shooting star press?
I know. I get it. He also concussed himself doing that.
But have you seen that was in his 30s. The ones that he did in his 20s when Maya was...
They were pretty. Oh, yeah. No, it looked like Evan Bourne if Evan Bourne was like 200 pounds heavier.
Ooh.
But
I'd never seen something that big flip that fast.
I've never seen, and I said this last year with one of our shot put throwers, but with her, it's even more true. I've never seen somebody so big and so strong be so nimble in a shot put spin. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah.
It's insane. It looks like a ballerina throwing a 6, or for, I guess, the women, I think it's 12 or 13-pound shot put, however many meters. It's insane. But I think that's going to be a great match. I think that CM Punk and Roman Reigns is going to be a great match. I would not be surprised if maybe they let Roman win. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to love that outcome. I think that Punk is kind of the perfect candidate for holding on to the World Heavyweight Championship. I think that he can do a lot of good for it, just like Seth Rollins did for as long as he held on to it. But I don't know. I don't know how that one's going to end. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to watch it because it's not on Peacock anymore. And I'm not paying $120 for one pay-per-view.
I'll watch the clips through TikTok. That's good enough for me. I'll watch something else. I'll figure something else out to watch on Saturday and Sunday. I think that
upset because I went to go watch the Royal Rumble, and I thought it was still on Peacock, and I turned it on, and I'm scrolling through. I tried to search, and it brought up Raw because it still puts Raw on there and SmackDown. I was like, what happened to my Royal Rumble? Oh, no.
Well, good news, on Netflix, they have all of the archives of all of the pay-per-views. Because of Raw being on Netflix now, they have put the archives of the big pay-per-views onto Netflix.
Yeah.
Like I've seen Unforgiven 2006 on there. There's some classics.
Yeah, and I might end up watching that once it gets posted on there, but I don't know. I was really mad. I actually turned off the TV and was just like, you know what, I'm gonna go read. And if I say I'm gonna go read, then I'm upset.
That's different. Yeah, no, that's different for you than it is for me. I read 3 chapters today during work.
Yeah, no, for me that's a punishment for myself. I guess I'm gonna go read.
I deserve it. I deserve it. I deserve it. I deserve it. All right. I guess when we're wrapping this thing up, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said at the beginning, I just want to make sure, because I've been thinking about this and I've had a couple of rough days, and I've been trying to pick up different things, reading John Wooden's Pyramid of Success. He has a lot of spiritual elements. He's a very religious person, but I've started to look at a proverb each day before school. And the one that I saw this morning really kind of like popped out to me because yesterday is the closest that I've ever been to dropping an F-bomb on one of my students. He knew exactly what to say in the wrong moment, when to say it. Like I was so out of it, frustrated, blew up, ended up the way that our CMAS schedule worked out. So I had him yesterday right after lunch. I have him beginning of the day today. So I woke up and I was still hot. I was still mad. I'm like, I want him to do something. I want him to do something so bad. And I put it into ChatGPT. I was like, pick me a proverb for today. And the one that it came up with was, not every disrespect deserves a reaction. And I think that that's something that I wanted to bring out there because, with my job search, sometimes I take things personally. I take disrespect. I don't like it. I don't like feeling like I'm disrespected like a lot of people. But it's also a good way of thinking about things because as much as you like to think that you're known, as much as you like to think that your reputation precedes itself, not everybody is going to know who you are. So honestly, disrespect being 100% personal all the time is unrealistic. It's not always the case. And the more you can keep your control in those situations, the better things will work out for you in the long run. You maintain control by not giving them the reaction, and you earn respect of the other people in the room by not giving them that reaction. And I thought about it too. I definitely scared the crap out of everybody else in that class because I was so hot. I can't. You've seen me in some of those moments. I was probably pretty close to being in the wrestling room. Like, are you? I'm gonna go back in the classroom. You stay out here.
And I like that saying that you brought up. It's so true in all aspects of life, but especially when you're dealing with younger kids who don't know really at times even that they're being disrespectful or whatever the case might be, whether that's because they haven't been taught that that's disrespectful, or they don't believe that it is, or whatever the case might be. I'm glad that you, and I didn't expect anything else, but I'm glad that you were able to catch yourself. And I think that's one thing that I'm still continuing to learn. Even though, I mean, you know me, and a lot of the people listening know me. I'm usually the most calm, forgiving, not all the time, but most of the time. And there's been a few times where I found myself kind of in a situation similar to that too, where like you just want to.
Peter Griffin's voice pops through your head. How many 12-year-olds do you think you could beat?
Yes, but it's also like I know I shouldn't be mad right now, but you're the 15th kid who's done this same thing in the span of 24 hours. And it's like, oh my God, how many? If I don't say something now, then you're just going to think that it's something that you can do. But you also have to be like, well, you're 12 to 18 years old or whatever, and you don't know what you don't know. And
if you don't acknowledge it, there's a chance that they forget about it. You acknowledging it makes it a bigger deal than it actually could have been.
It's the whole idea of like, all they really want is a reaction out of you. And if you don't give that to them, then they're going to realize, maybe that wasn't what I was supposed to do. And a lot of times that is true. Sometimes it's not either.
Yeah, no, that's something that I've been chewing on all day and going into. I have a job interview tomorrow to see where I end up next school year, but that's been something that I've been trying to work on, is like figure out how to push myself forward, because this has been tough. I'm not going to lie. It's been stressful. I haven't been enjoying this entire process, but I'm going to keep going through it just like everybody else needs to. And I hope everybody enjoyed this, because this was a lot of fun. There was a lot that we talked about. I enjoyed the ending of it. If you stuck around this far, make sure you comment down below who's winning on Saturday and Sunday. Is it CM Punk or Roman Reigns? Is it Randy Orton or is it Cody Rhodes? I want to know.
Comment Cody Rhodes. We all need the support. We all need the support.
John Cena's back. Oh my God! He just added Cody Rhodes through the announce table. Randy Orton's going to win his 16th World Championship.
I wonder actually if he's gonna AA Randy and set Cody up for potentially maybe a little bit of a heel turn. I don't know. It could happen.
He just, like I said, he just vandalized Pat McAfee's studio. He's a heel.
Well, and also if you think about it, like Randy Orton was one of John Cena's biggest rivalries. I would argue that Edge was his biggest, or yeah, I'd say Edge was his biggest. But Randy Orton, I mean, he's up there. That's probably his second. So I mean, it could happen. And honestly, I think that would be a really cool way for them to try to set that up. But I don't know. We'll see.
You got anything that you want people to know before we jump off here? I don't know if you plug your social media as a teacher or anything like that. What do you got?
I don't really necessarily plug my social media. I don't really use it all that much anymore, as you probably found out.
But you're going to post this episode, right? Because this is awesome and amazing.
I will post whatever you want me to post about this episode. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm happy to be back. I like that we kind of talked about pretty much anything that we could think of. And it's been a fun year, and I know that you've had some hard things kind of come up over the last couple of weeks, but I definitely commend you for keeping, sticking your nose back into it and trying to find somewhere that you can go to for next year. And I know I don't know if I'd have the resolve necessarily that you've had. It's tough to keep kind of a positive attitude sometimes, but you've done it with a lot of grace. I'll say that.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'll tell you, because I texted Dad this and I forgot to bring it up, because I was going to bring it up when we were on the show. We had our league practice yesterday. So all the schools from the league that we're in kind of we were hosting it. So they brought everybody in. And the reason why I feel like I have this resolve, and I know that you experienced this too, because you wrestled for long enough, but yesterday there was 180 pound. He said he was 180. He wrestled 165s. He's I think I described him as a roid monkey because he's like 180. Really? 220? Really? So we're doing the drill and we're live wrestling, and it's one guy starts in with their hands wrapped on a double leg, which is like the most unfair start that you can get because the guy that has his hands wrapped on a double leg is going to get the takedown. So I start off and I take him down, and then I get him set up, and I haven't had anybody in the wrestling room for 4 years that could challenge me besides Ian. It's been a long time. And I'm also 50 pounds lighter than I was when I was wrestling Ian. I was 270. That was a whole lot of what I was using to help me out. We get set up, the whistle blows, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, sprawl. And before I could get sprawl out of my brain fast enough, I was up flying. Ricky Bobby, up, I'm flying through the air. This is not good. And 220 flies a lot easier than 270 does. Oh my God. Brace yourself. But that's my resilience comes from that, because how many situations have I been in where I'm in the center of the circle and then I get, what just happened? You got thrown out of the gym.
The Broomfield kid from your senior year, my freshman year, who it wasn't you. It was the kid who cut to 285 and then was snacking on like 6 sandwiches after, and then he picks up Don Montoya and makes him do the splits, and then just goes and drops him on his head, and we all like, is he breathing? Don?
Oh yeah.
Don?
I can't tell you how many times Dad has looked down from the stands. He's like, if you get pinned, you get pinned. Let's wrap this thing up because it ain't going any better if you get up.
That's what I don't know if you agree with me or not, but so some of these track meets take forever, and it is what it is. But the one place that seems to drag longer than a track meet is sitting in a gym at a wrestling tournament as a 285-pound wrestler, because you have to wait for everybody else to get started before your first match comes up. And by then it's like 2:00 in the afternoon. You've been there since 6. It's like I could have showed up at noon and I would have been fine.
You never know how many fat guys are going to be in the radius. The gravitational pull is different depending on the tournament that you're at. That's how I'm going to put that. By the way, shout out all the Thundercats wrestling. This is my last freestyle season with Castleview and the Thundercats. So we got our Fargo national team qualifier coming up this weekend. So shout out to those kids. I feel like we've drugged this out long enough. I appreciated it. Make sure everybody's following at FEOTB Pod and subscribe to the YouTube channel. This has been Ridin the Pine with myself and my brother Dominic Pilato. We will see you guys next time.
See ya.
If you don't stay down and you never quit, come on over here and sit on the far end of the bench.